Ishana was like, "Dad, can I copy your work?" And he was like, "Sure, honey. Just don't make it too obvious." Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today our movie in the middle is The Watchers. The Watchers is a folktale horror following four humans trapped in a one-room building deep in the middle of an Irish forest, forced to be on display for a group of unspecified watchers every night. It stars Dakota Fanning, Georgina Campbell, Oliver Finnegan, and Olwen Fouere. So this is the directorial debut for Ishana Night Shaymalan, and yes, that is the daughter of M. Night Shaymalan. And coincidentally, he actually has a movie coming out himself in the next 2 months called Trap. It actually comes out on my birthday. What are they trying to tell me about age 27?
It's a trap!
So I'm kind of curious to see who's gonna win in this sort of battle of the movies this month, you know? Who in the family is really gonna take the cake? And first up, we have The Watchers. So starting off with the highs for this movie, I really liked the creepy tone of the movie. A lot of people were saying, among other things, that it wasn't really that creepy, and there is some merit to that, which I'll get to in a second, but I really did like it because, like, you have this misty forest, you have these weird creatures, it's quiet, you got all these mysteries, you got that it's set in Ireland, so it's deep in just the middle of nowhere and these woods, and honestly, yes, it's not exactly a horror per se, even though it was marketed that way. It is sort of more of a folktale, fantasy movie that is a little bit creepier and has definitely some scary elements to it rather than being a straight up horror. But I did like the vibe that gave off for sure. And the visuals in this movie very much back that up because the visuals, the cinematography, the sets are very, very cool. This is honestly one of the creepiest and coolest forests I've seen in a movie in a while, which is a very specific thing, but it's just something I noticed. It just, the mist, everything about it was really, really cool. And of course it's set in Ireland, so of course everything's very beautiful there. It's very cool and creepy. The cinematography actually reminded me a lot of The Green Knight, at least a little bit in terms of like that European, everything is, you know, colored sort of bluish, greenish, but then, you know, you have these moments that are also very gold and yellow, like on the inside of the building. It was just very, very well done. It was actually a really good looking movie. And then the concept itself is just very, very cool. That's one thing that I'll give to the Shyamalans, is that they come up with, or at least adapt, these movies that just have really cool concepts to begin with, and that's what draws you in. Is the execution always great? No. But I really did like this concept of just being stuck in the middle of nowhere in this weird building that shouldn't be there, and you can't see out, but they can see in, so you cannot tell who's watching you, but you know that they're out there. And then there's all these rules and all these little things that they have to, you know, like obstacles that they have to get past. It was just a really cool concept. And there is one scene in the movie which is absolutely the coolest scene, my favorite scene, which is a reveal of sorts, not necessarily a full-on reveal, but it was definitely the creepiest part of the movie for me and the coolest. It's just something I did not expect. My big middle is the characters, because generally I did like them. I felt we could have had more time with them and fleshed them out a little bit more, but I think that they did have enough backstory to feel like, okay, these are likable people enough that we can follow them for a whole movie. Dakota Fanning's character, Mina, is a great main character because she doesn't really spend a whole lot of time wallowing or being like, oh god, I'm in this situation. She just kind of like takes charge, takes the bull by the horns, and tries to figure out how to get them to escape. She's really good at playing these like deceptively authoritative characters when you wouldn't really think of it just by the look of her. I mean, look at her roots and where she started.
Involves a musical number! Me, 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 meow!
How many shots?
And then Georgina Campbell and Oliver Finnegan, I really did like their characters. They both play characters who seem like they've definitely lost it a little bit. I really like Georgina Campbell from Barbarian, so I already loved her going into this movie. Oliver Finnegan, I don't think I've seen him in anything else, but I did like him. He seemed to be playing that kind of like off-the-wall wild card, like you don't know what he's going to do character, and you can still sympathize with him. I did feel that there's been versions of this character that have been done better in other movies, but I still liked a lot of what we got in this. He kind of seemed like, he was channeling a little bit of Barry Keoghan in this movie. But I think by far the most interesting character is Madeline, the old woman played by Olwen Fouere, if I'm saying that correctly, because she's that mentor figure. She's the one who has the most experience, has the most information, has some information that she's not sharing, and so there's a little bit of a mysterious side to her, but she protects them, but at the same time she's a little bit creepy and off, and you think maybe there's something about her, you're not quite sure, and she always plays these sort of creepy characters, even if they're not meant to be, they just have this creepiness about them. I do have a few lows. One of them is that the logistics and just some logic about the movie and their situation, I just didn't really buy. I didn't really think made sense. Like, for example, you know, the Watchers want to keep them around because they want to watch them every night, but at the same time, they try to break in to kill them at certain points in the movie, so it's like, which one do you want? Like, what's the goal here? And that was just one of a couple things that just didn't quite make sense to me. And in classic Shyamalan form, the acting and dialogue in some spots is just weird. You know, like, the same thing happened with Old, where at the beginning, it felt a little bit unnatural, not as realistic. The actors didn't feel like real people. The dialogue didn't feel natural. And then it got a little bit better. This one I would say is a better case of that, where, you know, as the movie went on, it got better. But definitely towards the beginning, like, there's a part where Dakota Fanning is talking to this bird for a lot of it. And that's kind of the screenwriter's excuse, I would say, to get all this exposition of her thoughts and what she's thinking. But the thing is they didn't have to have some of those. We could have surmised what she was thinking without her outright saying it. There was just a lot of weird script stuff in there. And then I would say the third act, while it is a little bit interesting in that it goes in a different direction than I would have expected, I did feel that the last third really lost the momentum that the first two thirds were building up. And it was an interesting, like, where's this going to go? But then when it got there, I was like, oh, okay, all right. Okay.
And I think a big part of why is that throughout the movie there are themes of twins and mimicking and reflections, as well as loss. And in the third act, while they do technically come back around to those things, it's not in a way that's incredibly interesting or original, and honestly, some of it didn't even quite make sense to me.
And I think it's going to lose a lot of people if they haven't been lost by that point already. So overall, I think I actually liked The Watchers way more, well, maybe not way more, but more than a lot of people. I have just heard scathing reviews about how boring and uninteresting this movie is, and I'm sitting here like, I don't know, like, yeah, it wasn't the most interesting thing I've ever seen. It's definitely not the scariest thing by far that I've seen, but I thought it was pretty cool. I liked the tone of the movie. I liked the vibe that it gave off, and I think, again, if you go into this thinking it's a horror movie, you're going to be disappointed. If you go into it thinking this is a folktale, fantasy, creepy sort of thing with some creepy elements to it, I think you're going to be a little bit more pleased. And again, the concept was really cool. I liked the characters enough. I thought they, you know, had some interesting things going on. I cared about them for the most part. And, you know, was the execution flawless? Not by any means, but I thought it was still a pretty solid movie, especially being a directorial debut. I'm going to give The Watchers a 2.5 out of 4. Well, guys, let me know what you thought of The Watchers, because for as small of a movie as this sort of is, there's actually way more people going to see it than I would have expected, just from what I've been hearing and seeing. But let me know what you thought of it if you've seen it, and if you think it's going to be better or worse than her dad's movie that's coming out in just 2 months called Trap. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and movies right in the middle. I'll see you guys later.